Welcome into the program. The day after the Rugby World Cup squad has been announced, a man that has been there, done that, brought the William Webb Ellis Cup home once before and won it on home soil as well. Sir Steve Hansen. Steve, welcome into the program. How are you doing today?
Not too bad, thanks, Kirst. Yeah, just finished digging a big hole to put a magnolia tree in, so I'm quite happy to be talking to you guys this afternoon.
Is that wife's orders for the magnolia tree?
Everything's wife's orders, Kirsty. You should know that one now.
Yeah, Beaver needs to learn a thing or two. Now, yesterday you were talking about the squad. You were previewing the squad, and you said you believed we would pick the strongest ever team New Zealand's taken to a Rugby World Cup. Now that you've seen it, what do you think?
I don't know if I said the strongest ever, but I think it was stronger than 2019. I think, particularly up front in the tight five, we've got really good props who not only can do their core role, but they're good ball carriers, they're good defenders and agile and move really well and can play the game with the ball in hand. So, and of course, Scott Barrett's on fire. Sammy Whitelock and Retallick just keep going and going, and I've got a good backup with Via, so I think the top five are looking pretty sharp, and that's where we're going to have to win it.
Is there something that really excites you about this team, something that makes you sit up a little off your seat from what you've seen so far in 2023?
Yeah, well, they can play in multiple ways. That's what excites me. Like our DNA is to play running rugby. But right now I think we can take a punch in the nose and give one up front, and that's something that's probably been missing for a wee bit. That starts again with the front row. I mean, the front rowers are really playing well, and the locks, maintain their form, and Scott Barrett's just really matured into a wonderful footballer that we knew he would.
Steve, when you look at the squad, and obviously didn't quite do the numbers myself to the level that Fozzie would have. The 5-5 split, the locks and loosies, or 4-5. Would you normally, obviously got to carry Brodie for a week or two, would that normally be the way you do it at a World Cup, where the boys will probably have to play most games, or be it against probably some lesser nations?
Probably not the normal way you do things, but you probably take one less outside back, particularly with the cover. They've got our Swear and Damien and Bodie and Geordie and Rico, but I guess they're smart men. They've done their homework, and there's reasons for why they've taken those guys. And one of the reasons will be they don't want to move Geordie and Rico. They want them to stay where they are and dominate that space. You've got Will Jordan, who's had the inner ear problems, I guess, and they may be a little concerned about that. And then the young boy from the Chiefs who's had the sore back. So that could have been a factor.
Yeah.
There's bound to be a really, really good reason for it, because there's no doubt these guys have spent a lot of time talking about what they wanted and why they wanted them, and so we just got to back them.
Mate, you mentioned obviously that the All Blacks are showing different ways that they can play. What have you made of 2023? Obviously, it's been pretty impressive, and I guess highlighted by the fact that they did a job on the Springboks at Mount Smart.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm enjoying watching is just how connected they are as a group and how they're playing for each other. Doesn't matter who's on the park. That there's a real desire to do well, and their focus has really narrowed up into just wanting to win and take each test at a time, and they're doing that really well. And I thought the comeback against Australia, the young guys obviously a little bit nervous for a start, but they all managed to play themselves back into the game pretty well. And then with the old hands coming on, and a couple of the old hands already out there playing big roles, they took the game back under control, and I think they won it a lot easier than actually what the score said.
Sir Steve, just on connection, 2.5 months is a very long time to be away together as a group. 4 World Cups, I mean, what are those environments like? How intense is it? Do you get frustrated with your teammates at times? How do you, as coaches, deal with that situation that you're in, that inferno?
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to go to 5 of them, 1 with Wales and 4 with the All Blacks, and we always wanted to take home on the road. and try and make it as much like your home environment. So if you have anyone travelling over, they're most welcome to be in and around the team as much as possible. At the same time, not causing a distraction. And then there's lots of things they do within a week in the All Blacks, and Stephen's probably filled you in on a few of those that allow you to switch off and just get out of rugby mode, which I think is really important. So they'll manage those things really well too, and they're pretty tight. So it's no different than going on holiday with your sister or your brother. Sometimes you'll get sick of each other and you'll let each other know. yeah, but because you're so tight, you can say.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Beaver doesn't fill us in on anything either, by the way. He doesn't remember anything about 2011, he tells us.
Gone.
It must be the sore head that he had for like the 2 weeks after that tournament.
His head went once they made a movie about
it. Anyway, how do the All Blacks manage the next 2 weeks? What do you think they do at Twickenham, and how do they manage the team throughout the pool stages, knowing you've got a really tough game first against France and then you've got a couple of easier games? How do they manage? Do you play the same team all the way through, or do you rotate the squad?
I'd be very surprised if they played the same team all the way through. I think they've got a really good draw, like the big ones at the beginning. So they'll go up and they'll look at the South African game as an opportunity to give anybody that hasn't had a lot of rugby that's in their thinking to play in that French game. Probably get a run. They'll want to come out of that with no injuries. Then they'll play, obviously, the French game. What happens. Like you get pool play, you get you get a life, so you can afford to lose one. But then after that, I think the model they'll follow is similar to what we did in 15. I think they'll work really hard and train them really hard during the week, and to be honest, they should win those other games. Doesn't matter if they win them messy if they're training hard, as long as they win them.
Yeah. And
then that'll allow them to freshen up a wee bit and ease back, for the quarters. And then if they manage to win the quarter, they go through to the semi-final. So they run in, they can button off on the training and just be really specific about what they want to do, short and sharp. And so I'm picking that's probably what they'll do.
Now, mate, when you look at the rest of the World Cup, I've said the Kirst, I reckon Fiji and Scotland, potentially Scotland, definitely Fiji, get out of pool play. Have you got any smokies you think that might cause a few upsets?
Look, I think you're not far away there. I think Scotland have been playing some pretty good footy, and Fiji have got some great athletes, so they can put it together away on tour for that long. They'll be dangerous. Outside of them, no. The other side of the draw is interesting, though, isn't it? Like, there's no, your top four sides in the world play each other in the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
And people got to understand, two of the best sides in the world could be gone at quarterfinal stage, which is really unique and probably not really what we want, but it's the way the cards have fallen, I guess. So on the other side, that gives lesser teams an opportunity, and someone like Australia, if they get a good run and get some confidence, they could go all the way through and make the semi-final. Once you make that semi-final, you're in the party. Anything can happen from there. So England don't look like they're travelling that well, but who knows? Wales pretty much stay the same. So I think it is open for Fiji and to get out of their pool, and Scotland again another side to get out of the pool. So,
mate, when you look at it, like obviously World Cups are traditionally where teams like England and South Africa come and they don't play a whole lot. Do you think the game's moved on to a point where you've got to play with a bit of expansion, a bit of bravery to go through a tournament like this? Or do you think, as you mentioned, England's not travelling well, but England could revert to how they've played for many years and suddenly get through pool play, get through a quarter and somehow end up in a semi or in a final?
Yeah, well, there's so many things that can affect a tournament. Like if red cards, and I think that's the biggest concern most teams will have. Like, just you get a red card today just for looking the wrong way. So,
Yeah.
that has a major effect on the outcome. So, you're going to try and avoid those. You're going to be doing everything you can. And hopefully there's nothing unintentional that happens that results in one. You're certainly harder to beat if you don't play any footy, because you don't make any mistakes. And teams like the All Blacks love it when the opposition are trying to play open rugby, and then they'll drop a ball and bang, they'll pounce.
Yeah.
But South Africa, I can't see them changing much their model. It's been successful for them. So they're big boys, and they just like gobbling you up. And that's why I'm sort of excited a little bit about our forward pack. The tight five are really stamping their mark on the game, and that allows us to be able to say, righto, if you want to punch up, let's have one. If you want to play footy, well, let's have one. And it gives us a bit more versatility than we've had probably in the last 3 or 4 years.
Now, just before we let you go and get back to the magnolia tree, a question in here from Clay and Paddy from Westport. Sir Steve, how's Nature Strip coming along, and how was the cruise? Where was the cruise to?
That'll be Clay and Paddy Alexander. And they're very, very staunch Buller men. I played footy against Paddy years ago when I was playing footy. It was a long time ago. So, the Nature Strip's great. He's had a good holiday. He's a bit like me. And, freshened up well. So hopefully he comes back and does things right. And the cruise, we were very fortunate. We went on a cruise from Vancouver up through in a passage up into Alaska. So
amazing.
Sensational place. Yeah, it was actually. Yeah.
Wow. That's so incredible.
Two beers and all sorts of things.
That is.
Steve, you'd love it. You'd throw your fishing rod out.
I'll tell you what, sounds like a bit of me. Sounds bloody brilliant.
Oh, there you go.
Everything's paid for, mate, so you'd be right.
Oh, even better, make it pig itself.
The beer bar all there. Sound like you, son.
Oh, don't worry. Him and Israel Dag will have a travel show on that boat next year, I bet you. They'll find a way to monetize it so they're not paying a thing either.
Oh, yeah. Well, don't let them not take you, Kirst.
Sir Steve, your insights are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your time on the program. We really appreciate it.
SENZ. It's Kiwi for Sport.